Why is believing labels a problem, and how can that make you fat? Well, a big part of the problem is that we started to think about labels as giving us information about whether this food would be diet food or health food. And one of the things that we need to start off right away in understanding is the purpose of a label is actually to sell the food. So labeling really is another marketing strategy. So these food producers, they need you to buy their food or they would go out of business. So they need to make sure that the label contains the kind of things that are going to make you reach out and purchase this food, hopefully over and over and over again. And one of the most potent stimulus to having us reach up and buy the package is labels that say low fat, low calorie, diet, healthy, heart healthy, and all these labels, they actually cost, they have seals of approval from medical organizations, nutritional organizations, and this is really good investment on the part of the food producers, because when they put these on the labels, it does really stimulate people to buy them more often. So what's the problem? Isn't it better to eat food that's low calorie? Well, it would be if we'd found that overall restricting your calories was a good long-term strategy for losing weight, but it really hasn't worked out that way. And in addition to that, they're usually one step ahead of you. So there's a lot of manipulation of serving sizes. There's a lot of manipulation about how things appear, how likely you are to eat them, what's actually in them. They might have a lot of chemicals in them that enhance their taste profile when they would taste horrible if they didn't do that. And at the end of the day, what we have to realize is that it's really important for our digestive system, for our cells, for our brain, and for our health and wellness, of which our weight regulating mechanism depends, for us to eat real food. Real food comes from something that was once alive, a plant or an animal, and then we eat it, and then it helps make us alive. And a lot of the food that we're eating is so processed, it really is quite incompatible with anything that could have been living in nature. Now, we don't need to, ideally we'd like to be eating like this all the time, but it's a big change from what we're used to. It's also costs a lot more because real food costs more. It has to be grown without the aid of all these chemicals that really, really increase the yield, and it has to be produced without all the flavor enhancers that we can use from the chemical companies. So in order to grow this real food like this, there's just not that many people willing to do it because it costs more, so people feel like it's a poor value. Value is really a personal thing. So the government's putting these labels on foods because they are interested in making sure that the large group of people maintain adequate nutrition. And nutrition and nuts are not the same thing. Nutrition is something studied in a laboratory. Nutrition is something that happens in a dish. And we need to understand that when we read labels and depend on them, we're not getting the results that the labels entice us to believe, because that's really what the label does. The label is there to get you to buy the food, and most of the time the real food, which is around the perimeter of the grocery store, actually doesn't have a label at all. Or if the label has one ingredient, that's what you're really wanting to look for on the label. Is labels should be just something to help you tell if it's real food or not. When we're looking for all these things about whether someone's made a decision about whether it's healthy for you or not, you can't purchase health in this way. Real food is the healthy choice. And these food facsimiles, they attempt to be like real food. And that's all that they are. And some of them succeed better than others. And we're hoping that by reading a label, we can differentiate that. But we actually don't really know because that stuff isn't really food. So we have no way of knowing. And so the bottom line is eating all this packaged and processed food has certainly gone along with the statistics of what's making us fat. And a lot of it is because we think there's these good foods and bad foods depending on what these labels are. And it's how we're eating and when we're eating. These are having a lot of effect as well. And the labels are excuses for bad behavior a lot of times. So we put way too much credence in those labels.